flies indeed. We are now, it seems we just started and now it's the last panel. So Kjell, it's the second time you're visiting Tele2 IoT Talks and stuff. What are your first observations about the day? Maybe something you picked up in the Innovation Hub?
Well, let me first be nice to you now and say, I'm so impressed that we have people who can run this like professional hosts. And Anna, of course, is always professional, but to do this internally, super nice. But
Thank you.
back to what I think you wanted me to ask, talk about. And I've been mingling around here today, and it's kind of important to see how all these new vertical opportunities are coming. From year to year, you see something new, some new innovation that we can take on board. And I've had a couple of practical things solved for myself today. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She will definitely now download the app for Brick. So that solves one issue that I've had because I don't let her charge her phone overnight. So in the morning it's down at 10% or dead, whatever phone you buy her. And we see solutions for monitoring the workplace from a health, environment, and safety perspective, super important. And the creativity is almost endless. So I think that's one of the key things when you walk around here to get new impressions and see what's cooking, basically.
Fantastic. And I saw that you spoke with a lot of customers also there in the Innovation Hub, which is well appreciated. Now, one of the things which also has been talked about here on stage is the electric vehicles and the electric vehicle ecosystem. In essence, how do you see this particular industry evolving, and how do you think telecom and IoT in particular are going to support that?
Well, look back to when we first started buying cars that had navigation and some kind of data power on board. You had to go and change these discs or whatever it was so that you could have these things working. And now when Stefan and I talk to one of our B2B customers who is selling an enormous amount of cars in Sweden and other countries in Europe, we talk about the data power that they need to download to upgrade all their software and to run their business and take it out to their workshops. And you see, of course, every electrical vehicle being a connected vehicle. So this, of course, transforms safety, but also convenience for the customers out there. And, of course, also helps us to solve important environmental issues. So that the level of technology that we are taking on board is really staggering.
Mm-hmm. And as the CEO of the company, I think in the past years you have seen how Tele2 IoT has been rocking and really going up, expanding its footprint from Scandinavia and Nordic, even more globally. So what do you think is the key to that particular success in the past year, and what is going to be the fueling it in the future?
It's, of course, always the people who work with it. It's you guys, the team, those who arrange this event, the people who are out there. But from a corporate perspective, we did a bit of a strategic review when I came on board. And we decided there were some things that we would sort of de-emphasize, and there were other things that we wanted to be committed to. And IoT was one of the areas that we clearly wanted to be committed to. And that's why I'm glad to see that you guys have been able to continue growing, and that this is a profitable growth. It's a growth where you are relevant to the customers out there, and I met some of them separately today. So from the horse's mouth, I got the message, and that's nice to hear. And there are things we can be helpful with, which is, of course, important for the relevance. So I think it's just keep up the good work there and work to be relevant all the time. That's what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm. I can only agree with that, and I think that for us in Tele2 IoT, it's also a big pleasure to be a part of a bigger Tele2 family, and I would argue that one of the reasons of our success was this Tele2's unique cultural code with Tele2 values. How do you think those Tele2 values actually contribute to the success of the company?
Yeah, we have revitalized them because values need to be worked upon. They have to be in active use all the time. And we felt that there was an opportunity to reinvigorate this work. But there is one thing that really has survived, but that we're giving more emphasis on now and spending even more energy on. That's reliability. And if you're working with IoT, you really want reliability, that's for sure. But the other values that we are committed to around being insight-driven, is there one area where you really can collect information? It is through the interaction that the IoT enables. And I listened to a previous panel, and I was very happy to hear, based on Anna's questions, how the companies confirm their commitment to people's security on the internet and the data that is being collected, because of course that's a risky flip side. But we really are focused on being insight-driven in what we do. And of course, Stefan here, the last question that was asked, emphasized the value of collaboration. So to be a value-driven company means that you have to have an active relationship to what those values mean to you in real life.
Yeah, and we can definitely subscribe to that and say that we feel that. Now, right now, if we talk about the general economical situation in the world, we're experiencing a little bit of a turbulent time. There is a war, energy crisis, economical crisis, some kind of a recession going on. What is your take on how will it impact business in general, and maybe what is the role of telcos in that particular?
Well, for me, as an individual, I have lived and worked both in Kiev and in Moscow. So I'm really saddened by what I see. But it is what it is. It's something outside of our control. But it has a massive impact on people's lives. Our colleagues in the Baltics in particular were very nervous in the beginning of this conflict. And the repercussions are felt every day. We have had the energy prices, of course, that everyone's talking about. We see the interest rates coming up, and it creates a general level of anxiety that we didn't have when we started this year. So from Tele2's point of view, it has been very important that we go through this with strength. We are in a strong position from a balance sheet perspective, and we also have a good conversion of revenues through an extremely efficient capex model. We share networks. We are open to collaborate with others to optimize the way we run our business. And if you think that this is just the CEO talking about his company and how unique they are, of course you're right. But we also had a very interesting meeting with Standard & Poor's yesterday, and the words that I'm using now are pretty similar to how they described us, because looking at European operators, and this is a little bit back to your question, there is a nervousness about all the capex that's being spent for building 5G, building fiber, and all these other things, and how much of this can convert into sustainable dividends out in the market. And I think and I know that we stand out in that setup. And that means that we can be a strong supporter of the businesses where we want to continue to invest and be a relevant player. And I think IoT plays a different role also with us that I would like to emphasize. Because as a mobile network operator, you're limited to where you run your networks. But in IoT, we could be a European player. And being the sixth biggest player in IoT in Europe is not an obvious thing for what is essentially a Nordic business. And that's a kind of cool input to the rest of the business, and we learn from it. I find that very interesting.
I think we all do. Now, last but not least, talking about the future, let's talk about the telco as an industry transforming in 5-10 years from now. How will it look like, and what about the IoT role in it?
Well, I have a feeling that IoT will start living more its own life. And I'm not speaking specifically about the strategy of Tele2 here. But for many operators, the IoT business will probably be moving to a more aggregated or independent standing. And we kind of see that happening already. I think there is still some scope for the breaking up the value chain in telcos, but less than we've seen over the last 10 years. Some of this becomes hype and fashion, and I'm specifically talking about when people rush to do tower transactions that may not always be so accretive in the long run. At Tele2, we are super pragmatic about this. The main thing for us is that we have a setup that can serve the consumer and customer needs that we expect to be present in 5 to 10 years in a good way. And having a strong balance sheet and a strong cash flow conversion gives us the right and opportunity to make choices about our future. We are not burning all the money on a spectrum auction or a bad M&A transaction so that we have to sell part of our business to be able to fund the ongoing operations. And I think that's a strength that we bring with us.
Mm-hmm. And I think another thing which is very important is that it's your second time visiting IoT Talks, and I think this is something which shows our customers that Tele2 as a group takes the IoT business very seriously, and we are all very much looking forward in where it will bring us all into the future. If you would have some kind of a last message to our customers, or maybe a digital audience, what would that be?
I would say that, you know what? keep challenging my guys, because when they are challenged, they do even better, and that's very important. We should not. We're doing well. We're number 6, and we have given them the opportunity to expand the business and grow. And I'm very happy with that. And Cyril and the team doing a great job. Just keep pushing them a little bit, so we'll make sure that we are always a little bit better than the rest.
Fantastic. And we can feel a lot of that challenging beyond the visibility line, quite frankly. Yeah. All right. But with that being said, Kjell, thank you very much for your insight. That was lovely to hear all those things. And I think that our audience needs to give you a warm round of applause.
Thank you.